Here at First Avenue, when Prince started playing here, it really did rock our world.
Back when we were growing up, it was the club that everyone wanted to get into.
It sort of became the town clubhouse.
First Avenue was the kind of place where you could come, and regardless of who you were, people just really didn't care.
It was people that really loved music, people that were really interested in hearing what the next thing was going to be musically.
First Avenue was the main club on the main drag in Minneapolis for live music.
It was a bus station until about 64, I think, then reopened as a depot in 70. There was a thing called Uncle Sam's that ran here. It was a chain operation run out of Cincinnati.
The original club was called Uncle Sam's, the very first incarnation of this club, which opened in the mid-1970s. I think maybe as early as 73 or 74.
Before First Ave became a rock club, First Ave was a discotheque. And so this was the place in Minneapolis where people from all the neighborhoods would come to dance.
It's a great location. It's very central right here in downtown Minneapolis. And it just has a really great atmosphere.
I think that the way the stage was set up and the good-sized club that you could get, 1,500 tops, or maybe 2,000, it's hard to find.
There's the main floor area, and then there's the second level where people can view artists from up there. And the stage is nice and big, too. So you can get plenty of equipment up there, and there's plenty of space to perform, which is great, because not all showcase clubs have that.
Club with great sight lines, with a big dance floor, with the capacity to make a lot of noise through the frequencies, high end, low end, all that stuff. So, good place to play. And it's easy to find.
First Avenue was an amazing venue that had a main stage and a small club next to it called 7th Street Entry.
7th Street Entry.
7th Street Entry,
and that was the cool little
where all the cool bands would play.
To reach First Avenue was kind of a goal of local bands.
The two factions, kind of the funk side and the rock and roll side, developed out of this building.
We finally made our way as Flight Time into First Avenue through 7th Street Entry.
There was a lot of clubs that wouldn't let us play because we were a black band, and First Avenue was really one of the first places to give us a shot.
Lots of bands that started in the 7th Street Entry sort of went on to become pretty famous, like Soul Asylum and The Replacements and Husker Du.
The enormous amount of talent that's passed through their doors in the years and years and years of their existence, they kind of became one of these legendary rock clubs like the Bottom Line in New York, or the Roxy in L.A.
Whoever was booking the entertainment at that time was very diverse in their musical taste. It could be rock today, it could be R&B tomorrow, it could be blues one day. If you're a punk band at that time, if you are anything that's totally different, out of the ordinary, you can play 7th Street Entry.
But you also had to be good.
First Avenue and Steve McClellan, its wonderful manager, have a history of putting music and fans before anything else. Steve McClellan, God bless him, was the kind of guy that I could call at 11 o'clock in the morning and say, what are you guys doing tonight? Prince wants to play. And he'd say, well, we had a couple bands scheduled, but we'll rebook them. Come on down. When you got that going for you in a professional venue that has a great crew, that works hard, that's supportive like that, it ain't broken. Don't fix it.
You had a successful concert when you could walk around and look at the diversity of the room, because that meant you were dealing with the whole audience, and you were dealing with a music crowd and not a mainstream crowd.
It was definitely crossover. First Avenue was one of those clubs where, they actually had a night called Club Degenerate Night. And it was just like people would just come in with whatever they had on, and they just come in, they bounce up against the walls and just do their thing.
I think the types of people that came here were all creeds and races, colors.
First Avenue was kind of like an anybody club. I think that's kind of why, people like Prince, myself, and we all used to come here, because it was like you can get away from where you were always stuck at.
I think that it created that atmosphere that certainly appealed to our audience was.
The music was so diverse. People were so, Prince was able to fuse so much stuff. So much of the Minneapolis sound was just a fusion of all those different sounds.
I'd like to dedicate this to my father. It's a song the girls in the band wrote, Lisa and Wendy.
Prince wanted a local forum where he could do informal, impromptu club shows, try new music out, try musicians out, and First Avenue filled the bill.
And I remember times working in the 7th Street entry where Prince would actually come down and sit in the back corner of the 7th Street entry and watch these punk rock bands.
I think Prince just decided to do a surprise gig one night. We just popped down and it became kind of our venue of choice to try material out and try new shows.
I noticed that all of a sudden musicians that were playing in the entry would go, when's Prince playing again? Or, can we get in on the guest list for the next?
I've covered a lot of celebrities and been next to the side of a lot of celebrities. But we walk in the door, the seas just part. I've never seen anything like it.
And he adopted that club as his preferred place to play when he came back.
From knowing a lot of people in a lot of different states, they would call me and say, yeah, I hear Prince is performing tonight. And I'm saying, where? And they would know out of state before I actually knew when I lived here in the city.
When he wanted to do a club date, he'll call up on Thursday night and say, Thursday afternoon and say, I'm going to play tonight. And the word gets out and, club is packed.
His shows after the first couple here were legendary already, so the word would go out. And by the way, there was no advertising ever.
You use this club kind of, to play new mixes.
You come in with the record and say, okay, don't say anything until after. So he wants you to take the record, take whatever you're playing, he wants you to take it off right then, push the record on, and then watch what people do. And he would just sit there like a little boy and just kind of, watch what people's reactions were.
When you found out it was that new Prince's cut and it was grooving, everybody stayed on the dance floor. He knew I'm on the right track. But if they get away from the dance floor, then it's like, let me take this and go back to scratch again.
He liked to do all of his first show for every tour. It was like he would use this as the dress rehearsal place.
The audience reaction to Prince a lot of times was one of more like, screw it. Yeah, we're not really sure what we're seeing here,
Right.
But we're loving it.
Definitely had the extreme loyal fans, and then a whole bunch of in-between people that just didn't quite know.
They knew they were seeing something special, but they didn't quite know how to react to it.
Exactly.
Nikki started to grind.
I don't think there'd been a film that had so effectively captured the experience of a rock and roll concert.
We had recorded some of it live previous, and then some of it was played to track.
The movie, of course, the place is jam-packed, and people are dancing and just having a great time.
Most of the music to the soundtrack was premiered at a club show at First Avenue in August of '83, which was also Wendy's debut in the band.
I know we kicked it off at First Avenue by doing all those songs from the film, and then just went right into the film.
It was the first time any of that music had been played publicly. And as luck would have it, the basic tracks to several of the songs on the soundtrack album were first recorded there as part of that show.
How's the family?
I think it really depicted that Battle of the Bands thing really well. That was true in Minneapolis.
I got 3 acts. I don't need 4. So that means one of y'all have got to go.
Did a good job of showing that competitiveness, because that's the way it was back then in Minneapolis. Very competitive.
Everybody likes to argue about who first did the on the synthesizer, because that was like straight out of Minneapolis, and so it's like, was it Jimmy Jam, or all these guys were making claims to it?
There was a little bit of a rivalry there in real life that was sort of between Prince and Morris, but they were such good friends that it was almost in play. You know how people do that when there's sort of like this competition. When we were on tour with them, there was always a little bit of that competitive thing going on to see who could be better that night.
It captures really well and is very honest is the competitive spirit between bands, which, is rarely talked about, but is vital to any artistic endeavor.
After Purple Rain, First Avenue turned into a sort of a tourist club. And we always kind of felt a sense of loss.
For a while, when that movie did come out, it was kind of like the Mall of America. People would fly in and they get their picture taken in front of here.
What happened after the film was unbelievable. The club would sell out by 8 o'clock at night. There would be a line around the block of people waiting to come in. People from Chicago, people from New York, people from London. It was unbelievable.
It was kind of a weird thing because you'd have people in here and you want to say, hey, isn't this band great? And they didn't care about the band. They wanted to see Prince.
Just to, see how not just Minneapolis has taken a hold to him, but the world itself. Prince is like that top guy that, when it comes to the musical world, there is no other.
I played here as a kid in bands. I met my wife here. I mean, the band exploded here.
First Avenue definitely still has the legacy. The music still goes on, and and every time we go by there, there's always a crowd, and there's always some new music going on there.
It has just been kind of one of those magical venues that really gave people a chance to be really creative in a town that doesn't have a lot of venues.
Prince's relationship with First Avenue was, in the 80s, a very positive thing, and to this day remains a very positive thing because of the idea of blending audiences and bringing diverse groups of people together to enjoy music.
I asked him just 2 years ago, I said, hey, when are you going to call up First Avenue and do a surprise gig? And he said, tell him to call me, I'll play. So it's like, we're still waiting for that First Avenue gig. That'd be pretty cool.